Welcome to the Brahma Kumaris, where a new world is opened up for you. From humble beginnings in India in 1936 to a global organization with over 8,000 centers in 110 countries and 1 million students worldwide. Through their tireless commitment, passionate heart, and determined spirit, the Brahma Kumaris arrived in America in 1974 and have since grown to 35 main centers throughout America. There are also 2 residential retreat centers, Peace Village, located in upstate New York, and Anubhuti, located in Novato, California.
I want to just share a little bit about how the centers of Raj Yoga meditation began in United States. Actually, I was in Caribbean islands and I got invitation from New York that we want to start something about meditation. And it was in 1978 I came here and we rented a very small apartment in Astoria. And from there I found that a lot of people have interest. I realized that there is so much need, and from there onwards then centers started in many other states.
Our centers are safe spaces where you can explore the power of your inner world.
The classes are conducted in many homes, many cities all over across the United States. A lot of people, they learn meditation, they use it, that meditation at their workplace, in their family, and also I find that children, young adults, because they are so much into what really is the life about.
The Brahma Kumaris are dedicated to personal and global transformation through the study and spiritual practice of Raj Yoga meditation. And at the heart of our teaching is the belief that the pathway to peace and happiness is to remember our original nature as spiritual beings connected to the One Source. In 1981, the organization received recognition as an international non-governmental organization affiliated with the United Nations and accredited with general consultative status with the Economic and Social Council. From organizing large-scale global initiatives to local community programs, the Brahma Kumaris has a tradition of service in every field that fosters spiritual growth among individuals from all backgrounds, cultures, and walks of life.
I hold on to this vision, the world of love, world of peace and harmony, world which is free from conflict and sorrow, where we can live as brothers, one family, children of common parents, one supreme divine power.
This is your invitation to awaken and join us in creating a world of love, peace, and kindness. Om Shanti. Here in America, many of us still believe in the American dream. But why are we still not happy? Why are we struggling to own our own home, to find a job? Do we still have faith that our government representatives have a heart? And do they care about the people who actually put them into office? Join us as we sit one-on-one with America's congresspeople and ask the questions that will reveal what is at the heart and soul
of the people who decide our lives. Hi, I'm Sister Jenna. Let's do Soul Talk.
Relationship is meant to be one in which there's an exchange of happiness and love, and instead of that it's become a source of tremendous sorrow and conflict sometimes. And I feel that it's because we have wrong expectations. We expect something from the other to come to me, and that's going to fulfill me and satisfy me. And another person can give me something some of the time, but not everything all of the time. And yet that's our expectation of others. But of course, their expectation of me is similar. And so it's like, imagine a string, and a string being pulled in two directions, it's going to snap. And so today we find that relationships are very short-lived. Even parent and children relationships, one would imagine that that could last a lifetime. But within that also there are so many problems that arise. And so I see that it's a question of expectation and lack of fulfillment that's causing us deep, deep sorrow. Start from not just hopelessness, but just the whole subject of anger. And I remember a situation in which I used to feel helpless and I used to cry, but then there came a moment when I actually felt anger, which was, the helplessness was part of it, but then it was an actual very strong manifestation of anger. And it caused a very deep reaction of burden within myself, because I could see that I had caused a lot of sorrow for another. And at that moment, I decided that I mustn't allow this reaction to carry on. And I began to work on myself, seeing the impact that my anger had on another, and how difficult it was to continue in that relationship because of my anger. And I knew that I had to make a shift. And so I started working on myself, and rather than reacting, first step was just to stop the external reaction and connect with the inner peace that I know I have within. But the second step was that it mustn't just be stopping the external reaction, because that suppression actually can lead to depression also. And so I had to change my way of thinking. And instead of thinking that I am right, I had to start thinking, well, this is also right, this is also right, and this is also right. And so my horizon shifted, and I could see that there could be many, many different perspectives of the same story. And anger was being resolved very gradually.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Meditation Museum. Thank you very much for joining us. And for all of you who are here for the first time, a very special welcome. We're glad to have you join us. Today we're broadcasting on Facebook Live, so if you would like, if you could take out your phone and share the event with your family, friends, and networks, that would be great. We'd appreciate that. For those of you who are here for the first time as well, the Meditation Museum is operated by the Brahma Kumaris, which is a worldwide spiritual organization. We have 9,000 branches in 120 countries. And in this location, we have Silver Spring, and we have another museum in Tysons Corner, Virginia, where we offer a full range of personal development workshops and classes. And also we host corporate training as well. And today we have a wonderful program on how to get along with difficult people with Sister Jenna, our special guest. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Sister Jenna is the director of the Brahma Kumaris in in Silver Spring, as well as Tysons Corner, Virginia, the Meditation Museums. And she's also the host of the America Meditating radio show. So now let's welcome Sister Jenna. Thank you.
I think it sets the tone for our conversation today. Lovely. Om Shanti. You might hear us, if you come here quite often, you'll hear us always say hello in this kind of a very natural state. We say Om Shanti, and we look at you deeply in the eyes. Not because we're nosy, but we just find that nowadays we don't have a soul-to-soul link with one another. We're sometimes just afraid to reveal ourselves to each other because we're not quite certain about who we are anyway as much as we wish to know. So you'll see in the Brahma Kumaris community, and many of us will kind of look little loving, and we just, Om Shanti, it's so good to see you. You know, it's just great to have you here. And I think why that's so important is that when we can greet each other with that deep inner sense of love and appreciation for our existence, it not only serves our own spirit, but it creates an authentic relationship between you and another person. Wonderful sister came in today, which I've never met before. I know nothing about her. But I had met her son, and I remembered Santosh saying, I have this wonderful couple. It's a mother and a son, and they're taking the course. And I went, that's nice. So it goes to show that when even I get updated by the staff and everyone, that I do record when I'm told, so-and-so is coming, this was their issue, this is how they felt. And so the soul came into the museum, and it's because of my Om Shanti and meeting each other soul to soul. I was saying, you're the mother of so-and-so, aren't you? You see? Because I had that soul to soul link with her son. And so because she has invested so much of her energy with him, it's natural that you could feel even a little bit of their connection, of their energies. So just imagine that I can do that with you, and imagine when we're encountering a relationship with someone that is very negative in our lives, or it's just a very hard relationship. You know, imagine the energy that's coming through to me and how that makes me feel when I begin to see somebody with loveless eyes. And when I start to look at anyone with loveless eyes, I confirm that person is loveless to me, even though I'm not recognizing that I am loveless in the way that I'm seeing you. You know, so our discussion today is one I think many of us have experienced. Many of us have had maybe one or two people in our lives that we've not been able to feel a resonance with. It doesn't feel like Disney. It doesn't feel like it's harmonious. It doesn't feel like heaven. But it feels a little bit like hell. this marriage feels like hell, this family, this relationship feels like hell, but I want it to be like heaven. And so every single one of us in this world has had one person that we feel like they're so difficult. They're so hard. And I sit here not as an expert in maneuvering all of my relationships, but I sit here as an experienced person in dealing with a lot of challenging personalities and then selecting my battle, discerning if this is even worth it. And I feel that as you go deeper into yourself, and if you go deeper into really paying attention to what your thoughts are telling you you are, then you start to prioritize what's most important to me. Is my peace or my peacelessness? Is it winning this argument, or is it walking away with love and empathy? So, we have to prioritize to ourselves, what matters to me the most, especially if I'm surrounded by very challenging personalities. In an organization like the Brahma Kumaris that's in 120 countries, we're dealing with a variety of cultures, personalities, ways of doing things. But at the base of it all, everybody has a heart. And so if we can only access that area in which we can come from our hearts to be able to tap into the heart of another person, then we won't worry about a person being difficult or not. I had an interview with a very beautiful lady called Anne Grady. And Anne Grady is a resilience expert. And if you haven't downloaded the Pause for Peace app or followed the America Meditating blog talk, and this isn't a promo, I really, really advise you to. It is a conversation on air 24/7 where you get to learn from some of the best experts on the planet about how to answer life's questions and just do life a little bit easier. And just imagine when you're driving to the market, or you're driving to work, or you're driving from Suitland, Maryland, or somewhere out there, and you have an hour to drive. See, as soon as I mention you, your phone rings. That's a sign. So, so whether you're, when you're in the car, you can hear these beautiful classes. When you're walking around the house, when you're cleaning, when you're cooking, be thirsty and be curious for self-knowledge so that you can be more resilient and strong. Anyway, so Anne Grady has a very interesting story. Master's, in psychology, is a coach for many major corporations, and I hope Anne's also tuning in, has a son that has a mental illness, and she says from that soul was in her womb, the way that soul used to kick her, she used to feel this wasn't normal. Whoever was in my womb was just, this is not normal. He would kick her so hard that her ribs would break. So when he was born, it was fine, but at 3 years old, he attacked her with the scissors to kill her. And it was at that moment, Anne was saying, I don't know, there's something not right with my child. And so here she encounters one of the most difficult relationships she could have ever signed up for. Now, this is her child. That means there is love no matter what. And so as she grows into trying to maneuver, how do I take care of this when I'm out there talking to millions and thousands of people about how to be resilient and how to stay strong, that she says you have your good days and your bad days, but the fact is never create limiting belief systems about your own sense of worth or your own purpose. That means I don't have permission to create a limited belief system about somebody else. If I don't do it for me, I shouldn't do it for you. And one of the most painful things is when you try to work through a vortex of consciousness in which you can feel the vibrations in which people are looking at you with, that they have created a story about you. and you come into the hello or into the scene of this person, and you just know it's a wall. Like, it's difficult from the get-go, from the hello. Your spirit knows it. You might not even have any proof, but your spirit will not lie. That when you go in front of a person and you can feel there isn't that pure love there, you can say, this is a difficult relationship, it's strained. Have you ever had one of those strained relationships? And some of them are not very clear, like they're not telling you straight up, I don't like you, but they're smiling and thinking, I don't like you. Have you had one of those? You ever had one of those? Hey, girl. And you're not sure if it really is, hey, girl, or is it, hey, girl, right? And so this is where we need to have our own discerning abilities, which will come when I have been paying attention to the way that I think and observe, are my thoughts in check? Am I prioritizing the importance of my interior peace? Am I even checking, am I a part of the problem here? If you're like me, we believe in the Brahma Kumari's teachings that the soul is an energy, it resides in the body, and the soul has a recording of many, many lifetimes. And some of our past lifetimes are unresolved energies recorded in the soul. Sort of like, have you ever been to a social gathering and you were talking to somebody and in the middle of the conversation they walked away and you didn't get to finish what you were saying? And throughout the whole social gathering, you'll see the person, you'll give them a little attitude. Because what you were saying was important, but to them, they weren't present. But you felt like you didn't finish what was important to you. So imagine when you've had a lifetime in which it's cut short, something happened which didn't feel right, and you weren't able to resolve it. So in our teachings, we take you through a course called the Cycle of Time, which basically gives you an option to consider, what if you've been here before? What if the soul is traveling with an enormous story, which you just don't remember? But why are you going through what you're going through? Because some of the things that we're going through makes no sense of this particular lifetime. So sometimes when we connect to the concept that, have I been here before? And if I can understand that, I might be able to stop taking the issues that are coming at me and to me so personal. Example, my mother did a past life transgression. I think she went through like 40 lifetimes with the person, which is a lot of lives. And as she went through the memory of the recording of those experiences, she also traveled through the emotion of those lives. So let's say in this lifetime you feel like Superman. And let's say in another lifetime you felt like a beggar. Let's say in another lifetime you felt like a president. Let's say in another one you just felt like a mother. You know, I'm just saying that you can live out a whole life in a particular mode of consciousness without really making any drastic changes within you. It's just your template, you know? So after she went through so many experiences, her mother died in a train accident when she was 7. So they were orphaned. She and her sisters were orphaned at 7, 5, and 3. And we bumped into an author called Beverly East, who did a book on Reaper of Souls, which is the story in fiction form of the train crash called the Kendall Crash in Kingston, Jamaica at the time. So she showed me the book. She was here, and she showed me the book. And she opened up to a page, and in the page was a picture of all these corpses, you know, because hundreds of people had died from the train accident. And it turns out that 15 minutes before I opened that book, I was sharing with Beverly, you know, one of the things that Sister Gita doesn't have are any baby pictures, because she was orphaned. She doesn't have any baby pictures. She has no pictures of her mom or her dad. It's just so sad. I don't know what it would be like if I didn't have a baby picture. So we just said, yeah, that must be quite interesting. So 15 minutes later, Beverly opens up the book and shows me a picture with all the bodies, and guess where my eyes went to? There was one child in that picture, and it was Sister Gita. Because she had to go to identify her mother's body, because she was the only one mature enough to do so. Now, of course, in developing countries, they don't think about the psychological impact on a child. Developed nations or developing nations are a little bit different than how we would be like, just don't tell them that it happened, you know. And it was interesting that as I observe, you know, as we observe the activities and the behaviors of everybody in our lives, everybody, known to us intimately or unknown that we see on a television screen, it might be useful to consider if there are past life experiences in them that's making them so complicated. That there are unresolved experiences traveling inside of their personality which they've not been able to sort through. And then the question emerges, well, what is a normal person? I have no idea anymore, to tell you the truth. Because we're at such a time in our culture that I don't even remember what normalcy looks like anymore. Do you? I know, right? But the template that I do have, and I have to thank the Brahma Kumaris for this, is that in the teachings of Raj Yoga meditation, which is taught with all of our centers in 120 countries, we are deeply focused on the quality of our thoughts, the quality of the intention and the vibration that flows through our words, the quality and the intention behind our choices, and the quality and the intention in our relationships with one another, especially the ones you live with. Have you met somebody, or have you lived with somebody who's very unkind to you in the house, but when they go outside they're nice to everybody? Don't you love those? And it sends you mixed signals, because you can see the capacity of the goodness of the person, but when they're with you, you're figuring like, why don't you treat me the way you treat everybody else? So they generally say that souls who are struggling with that kind of a behavior or pattern, in a past life, they went through so much with intimacy or emotions in very deep relationships that they might have lost someone that they loved very well, that they're very afraid of really genuinely being intimate over a long period of time. And so they hide their feelings from the ones that they're most closest with, because deep down they might be afraid of losing them again. And the irony is they end up losing you because of the way that they've treated you. So again, you see how we're repeating cycles of things that we're going through, and we waste most of our life's energy blaming people for situations and circumstances and the way that we are with one another, rather than going inside and check, am I difficult? Am I an easy person? And you can check if you're an easy person by observing if your thoughts are kind, if they are respectful, if they're non-judgmental, if they're inclusive, and even if they're curious. That means you're constantly open to the learning process, because there's still so much about you that you're intrigued to know. Now, on a scale from 1 to 10, in a single day, how much do you think about other people? Don't tell me. 10 being the highest. So think about it. Isn't that something? So on a scale from 1 to 10, how much are your thoughts focused on someone else? It could be somebody in the news. Hopefully it ain't that person anymore. Kind of tiring. It could be a relationship at home that's not seemingly smooth. It could be a relationship of the past. It could be an expectation of something pulling you forward, but the past is holding you back. And so there's a struggle. So, there's a lot going on. How much of your thoughts in a day are focused on well wishes, blessing people? How much did you even bless you today? From the moment you woke up this morning, did you actually say, I bless you? It's so simple. And so to be able to find those simplistic natural methods that can help us to stop going into the waste, stop speaking about the waste, will require a lot of inner silence. Someone was talking to me before I came out earlier today about what is inner strength. And I shared with them that inner strength is when there is just no blockage of karma. There are no more karmic negative experiences flowing through you anymore. Inner strength is when you're karmically free. You're still in love, you still have a marriage, you still have children, you still have a partner, you still dream, you still envision your empire becoming huge, but it's not driven by low vibrational frequencies. It's not driven by ego, anger, greed, attachment, lust, fear. That's when you know you have inner strength. And so when we encounter a human being who seems to be walking with a lot of unresolved interior issues, then it's natural for us to say, gosh, this person's been so difficult to deal with. And what I've learned about relationships that are very taxing is that I have to just choose my battle. And after you spend enough time with people, you do get to realize they're doing the best that they can for them. I need to do what I need to do for me. And the opportunity here is every time I see what's broken in them, I become broken. And that's what's creating this consistent cycle of difficult relationships, difficult people, that when I start to absorb the energy of that person in me, wherever I go, people say, oh, she's difficult. Now, I don't think I'm a difficult person. But other people would say, oh, I just can't live with her. Because we are so naturally wired in just being whatever we are. Example, I used to be at a center in another state, and let's say that I would have done all of this and got the whole room together, and I felt, oh, it was just perfect. And this other sister would come in, and the minute she would come in, she would see, that's missing. Look, that plant is dead. You need to move that. She could see everything that was wrong. And the reason why she was able to see what was wrong is that she was coming from the outside in. She was a detached observer, whereas I was living in it every day. So because we're living in our own stuff every day, we don't always see what might be broken or what seems to be a weaker vibration flowing through us. And it's normal for us to not see it. It's almost like a protection. But one thing I've learned in our teachings of Raja Yoga meditation, and it gives me a lot of comfort, and I hope that it gives you comfort too. There are 3 levels of consciousness recorded in every human being. And you ready to write these down? 1, there is a Sato stage, S-A-T-O. Sato means a very pure state of awareness recorded in every human being. If you want to know what sato means, think of a brand new child, a brand new baby. That energy of a brand new baby is recorded in your personality. Now there's also the stage of Rajo. Now Rajo is that now you've been kind of accumulating different experiences. Now for the first time your Sato has gotten mixed with what I always use as an acronym called algae. Now my Sato got mixed with algae. A for anger, L for lust, G for greed, A for attachment, and E for ego. So when I'm in that Rajo stage, there is my beauty is still there, my purity is there, but it's mixed. So if you can imagine coffee mixed with cream. It's kind of tasty, but it's not very healthy. Black coffee is actually much better for you. Right? And so a lot of times when we make decisions in the Rajo stage, it's called a mixture of motive. And if a lot of us are thinking and speaking and choosing from a Rajo stage, it means I'm creating such a strong energy of a mixture with my intentions that even I am not able to sift it out very clearly. So imagine when you encounter a person similar to yourself, or a person who is even 10 times more complicated than you. Imagine the entertaining moment that you both will have at that time. Okay? And then you have the third stage called Tamo. T-A-M-O, Tamo Pradhan. It's where no matter what you tell the person, they can't hear you. They call it a state of very deep ignorance. It's where almost as if the intellectual faculties of truth and divinity has become locked. And it's hard to try to communicate to a wall. Or it's very hard to communicate to somebody who's so fixed in their role. Or it's very hard to communicate with someone who is so selfishly driven that there's just no room for your truth and your divinity to come in. Not right now. So imagine all of us have these 3 stages that we live with. So when someone criticizes you, you go, but I'm not like that. How could they say that? Because really our Sato stage does confirm, I'm not what you just told me I am. Because I know I'm better than that. But we've also had opportunities where people have praised us and have said, oh God, I wish I could live up to your expectations of me. I'm nothing near the way you look at me. So even though someone is praising and giving me all those that good feedback, there's a part of me that questions, I don't think I'm that good. So it could be a mixture of my Rajo and Tamo. So please understand, as of today, if you ever get feedback from a relative, a friend, a relationship, or someone in the workplace, and they're either praising you or defaming you, observe how you feel at that time, and then determine where you're at. Just check. The way you feel will be your meter in helping you to understand, are you easygoing or are you complex too? Difficult people come or emerge in our story because we've not been sorting out our thoughts. Our thoughts haven't been clear to us for a while. So I just want you to give that some consideration as we go through a little bit of the workshop and the idea. And I'm going to do a very simple exercise with all of you today. And how many of you were watching the news today? I'm so happy to say I didn't. And as much as I love journalism and I love the foreign press and I love what our journalists are really, dealing with every day, it is my personal plea too for journalists to begin to cover stories that can raise us up too. And in the midst of crisis, that sometimes when we're going through some of the most tragic moments in our history, surprisingly to us, we start to see an incredible amount of love pouring out. On one side, there's the horror and the nightmare, and on the other side, there's the reality that human beings have the capacity to love fiercely and to do more. I got a book from a friend of mine. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's running for president, by the way. Politics of Love. Marianne Williamson. That we need a politics of love. There she is. She needs only 20,000 more donors just to get her into the DNC debates. And I invite you, donate $1 and get her into the DNC debates, because I'll tell you why. What's so powerful about having a woman on the political stage talking about a politics of love? And please know I am not plugging a political candidate here or a presidential candidate. I'm curious about the voice that every one of these individuals that are running have to say. And this person intrigues me. Because they wrote a book, I think about 20 or 30 years ago, called A Return to Love. How many of you read that book? It has changed the lives of countless of people around the globe. And for someone who have been in the community of consciousness raising, have made mistakes, fallen down, get up to say they're going to run for the highest office on the planet and they're going to bring a politics of love in, I thought about, this is the energy we need to deal with difficult people. Don't you think? And it's not to say that this person is difficult and I'm going to be very loving to them and I don't see their changes. It's not about that. It's about the fact that my love has to be genuine enough that even with their complex vibration or complex energy, it doesn't enter my field anymore. I stay who I'm supposed to be. So when I feel this book, which just got released just a few days ago, A Politics of Love, I think about the Latin derivative of the word politics, polite. And I thought it meant to be polite. The politics meant to be polite with one another. And I think that maybe through the tragic quality of narrative that we're witnessing today, that perhaps it's all accurately taking place, because not only does the whole country need to wake up to love, but we also need to spread this love throughout humanity. So I just wanted to mention that I started reading it today, and I was very inspired by the first chapter. So I'm looking forward to get into it. Here's the exercise. I want you to turn to the person closest to you, and I'd like you to greet them with no story in your intellect about how you're showing up, and no story about who you think they are. I'd like you to basically turn to the person next to you as if you're just 6 months old and say, "Goo goo gaga, hello, how are you?" Center, something's on the computer. All right, how did that feel? Felt nice? But the person that you met next to you, do you think they were difficult? And why did you think that the person that you just met didn't seem like a difficult personality to you? What do you think is the reason why you felt they weren't difficult? Because they came here. Good. Because you become a child and all of a sudden your good qualities begin to emerge. What else? Huh? We see the smile in someone's face. Great. Anyone else? We're feeling opened. Very nice point. Anyone else? We didn't, oh, that's a good one. We didn't engage our intellect. We were like, ka. Right. So we were just curious. We're no attachment. Yes, yes. It was very genuine, very pure. So let's try this now on Visage. I want you to think of that one person, and don't give me the list of the 10 or the 20, but that one person that you can't feel that emotion with. Immerse them in your mind. How are you feeling now when you think of the person? Tell me. Somebody just did this. I love it. Yeah, but how do you feel when you remember that one person? What are some of the feelings that come up? Tell me. Sad. Hurt. Cursed. Explain, what does that mean?
Well, if that one person happens to be somebody really important in your life that can't be replaced by anybody else, then that's what you got, that's what you're given, that's your circumstance. And it can feel
Oh, wow. Okay. Love that. Oh, all right. Anyone else? How did you feel when you thought of the person? Yeah, that expectation in relationships, I tell you, really make them really a test paper. Anyone else? How did you feel when you remembered the person? How did you feel? Angry. Good. Anyone else? What was that? Sad, yes. Blank. Wow, what an interesting answer. Oh my God. That's a great answer. Oh, so I emerge the person who I think is really difficult to me, and when they emerge in my mind, blank. Because if I start thinking, it ain't gonna be good. I got it. Anybody else? How did you feel? How did you feel when you thought of that one person? Uneasy. I feel like I'm losing my good qualities. Regretful.
what about sorry for them?
Sorry for them. I'll tell you, I feel so disappointed. Like when I don't have a lot of people that I can say, you know, I leave people to be who they are. Come on, I'm Pisces. I don't have a choice, right? But it's like you're going to bump into people that struggle to accept you as you are, and maybe you struggle to accept them as they are. Sometimes you don't know the answer to it, but what you do know is sometimes, whether it's a mother, a father, a superior, a sister or a brother, they won't accept you as you are. And as a result of that interior belief system, it creates a strain in the relationships because you can feel it, that they have created such a limited point of view about you that you're stuck. It's like, there's nothing I can do. I can only be me. And I was remembering that, what was it? I heard something a while back. What was it again? People say things about you, and sometimes people say things negatively about you because of their insecurity of you. They won't tell you straight up that there is jealousy or a sense of inferiority or superiority, or however they put it. But some people intentionally want to say unkind things about you, knowing that when people hear these things about you, they will look at you with that energy. That's their way of creating a war. That's their way of trying to get at you. And that's why I was telling the soul that came to me earlier today that if you really want inner strength, you have to clear out all your karmic blockages. So even if you have something up for me, it just flows right in and out as if it has nothing to do with me, because I don't own that anymore. I'm sorting out my clarity in myself. My karmic energies are getting clear. So even if you're sending me some negative energy, it doesn't get stuck anywhere here, because I don't have that in me anymore, or I have less of it. Right? So you have to sort of really observe these relationships, how they show up for you. But here's one thing I really want you to focus on. Don't think it's just them alone. Because based on how you're feeling as a result of their connection with you will determine where you are with yourself. So when you stop blaming people for being the way they are, there's no doubt they might be very challenging or difficult. But why are you so disturbed by that? Your lack of peace and your lack of love is your sign you're not so easy yourself. You're not so easy yourself. So I want you to think from that perspective and just to observe how uncomfortable your body felt when you thought about that person who you felt was giving you sorrow. Or is your sorrow meter? Versus when you met somebody and you were just being your innocent, pure self. And one of the most profound things about relationships, because we don't know each other, we will show up our best self at first. And then when we get to know each other 24/7, then we start to pick up certain things and record certain things and hold certain things. And that's why the relationships are getting really testy. So as Santosh gets to put the PowerPoint on, I'd like us to maybe just take a moment to just pause and breathe in deeply and just do a little meditation for a bit. And thank you for participating in some of these ideas and thoughts. Are you all okay? Have you been enjoying so far? Has it been helpful so far? Helpful? Okay. You're glad you came and your ticket was free? All right. So take a deep breath. Just inhale and exhale. And just pay attention to your breath. Inhale deeply and exhale. Breathe in deep again and exhale. Breathe in deep. Exhale. With your intake, believe in all of your good. With your outtake, release what's no longer of service to you. Breathe in. Everything about you that's great. Breathe out, which you're ready to release. Pay attention to your in-breath and out-breath. Releasing all the tension, all the hurts, disappointments. And now allow the energy of the Supreme's light to hover over you like this very warm, gentle glow of light. It's over you. And that warm light is carrying the vibrations of love and peace. and purity. And it's flowing through your body completely from the top of the crown of your head to your toes. And the supreme light of love and purity and peace is flowing through your system completely, reminding you that everything is okay. And right here at this moment, just be grateful. Be grateful for all the small miracles as well as the large ones. Be grateful for all the people that love you the way you want to be loved, and for those who don't. Be grateful for what's working absolutely perfectly for you. And be grateful for what almost seems like a nightmare to you. Just be grateful. And at this very moment, in the state of kindness and love and gratitude, send those souls love who you feel have been your greatest test from your heart. Bless them. Wish them well. Wish them to be benefited. And just release that. Allow the energy of God's love to just surround you. As God's love becomes the healing medicine for the soul. Take a deep breath and out. You can roll your shoulders back and forward. Relax your head and your neck. Just be grateful. Be present. So as we go into this conversation about ways to deal better in situations and circumstances we can't get out of. It could be we're in a job and the supervisor isn't very kind, and they make it very clear to everyone else too in your department. But you can't seem to leave the job right now because maybe it's something you love, or maybe you've got a child that's sick, or maybe you've got to pay alimony, or maybe, you know, you've got a mortgage that's due and right now I need the money. I need the money. So whoever that person is or people are, that when you open yourself up to them or when you show up to them, you don't feel safe. You are disappointed that you might want more from them. Just put all of that aside for a little. And let's look at what is our priority. What matters to you the most? Because when it comes on to dealing with what we might call a challenging relationship, might not necessarily be as challenging as I'm thinking it to be. So the reason why I'm starting this off to invite you to ask what are your priorities is that when you are clear on your priorities, you will also be very clear in how much you allow people to affect you. For example, my priority is that I want to live a life of love. And I want my peace to be very stable. And my priority is that my character, that when I leave my body, people should only say she was such a generous and loving person. So my priority is at a soul level, that I want my soul to be okay. So that means I might have to lose a lot of external wars just for my spirit to be okay. So write down, what do you think are your priorities right now? What are your internal priorities? And maybe physical priorities. It's up to you to decide. Maybe you like a clean environment. Maybe you like a festive environment. You know, it depends. Just figure it out. And even if tonight you can't come up with it, don't worry. When you go home, you get onto the Facebook, or when you're laying in bed, what do I prioritize? What is really important to me? Okay? Because a lot of times when you're not focused on your priorities, when you bump into a variety of different personalities, then you make that encounter with that personality stronger than where you were going, or what you needed to remember is important to you. And you make somebody who seems insignificant, or maybe a very close relationship, too much of a significance, that you are no longer happy. Do you understand why your priority is important now? Okay? All right. So it's important that we ask ourselves, and this requires a lot of self-honesty and a lot of humility. And you really have to, this is a question you have to ask yourself very regularly. Am I really easy to get along with? And that's for you to keep observing. Like, always keep observing the way that you're feeling and the dialogue that you're having in your head. If the dialogue that you're having has judgment, criticism, complaint, comparison, if it's focused on a lot of those quality of thinking, you're not such an easy person, because those aren't easy energies. Do you get that? So this is why this question requires a lot of honesty and humility. And I can assure you that when you get clear with that answer, you will be a lot more forthright in the way you show up in your relationships. Know your battle. Know your battle. Choose wisely. Not everything my spouse says, I'm going to take it on board. And majority of the times, when your spouse says something which perhaps he or she always says to you, but on that one day you're like, I'm not going to take it anymore. It's not him. It is still you. You will decide to get onto that battlefield, go into battle, and know that you might have just sacrificed your priority, which was your peace, which was your dignity, which was your power, which was your love. So know your battle and choose them wisely. Because my karmic story is I'm very advanced in my thinking, and this has nothing to do with the ego of my personality, it is the part that I'm ordained to play. I hope you can decode that. You're born with that. They call it in the West, it's your call. I catch things, especially in the early morning hours between 3 and 5 in the morning. I catch the purest thoughts and the agenda what next? Here's how we're going to serve the world. Here's our next idea. And I know it's coming from God's love. I'm so clear. And as a result of being a trailblazer, like a spiritual trailblazer, where perhaps so many in my community are still trying to figure out, I hear people, what is she doing, you know? Because I don't do it exactly the way they do. Every day they do like this, they dress like this, they walk like this, they talk like this. I believe I'm very much the same because we carry the same love and principle for God. It's just physically different with my energetic field. So the point that I'm making is that sometimes when you're different, you have to encounter a lot of obstacles and challenges with people because your gut and your spirit is telling you, and nobody can convince you, I'm telling you, this is it. And even though your spouse or your parents or the people in your company will be like, is he doing? What is she now doing? That they don't see or feel what you felt, that you can't listen to them because you're going to end up in a battle that's going to move you away from your priority. You got to be quiet and you got to turn to God and you got to say, I know you wouldn't misguide me. Can you imagine what would have happened to Einstein? Can you imagine if Steve Jobs didn't come up with the whole thing of Apple? Can you imagine when the inventors created, who was it, Edison that invented electricity? Yes? Can you imagine how upset the candle makers were? But every invention and every creative idea and everything that gets touched through you to move stories forward also helps to awaken other people to move forward. So that's why you don't have to fight all the fights that you bump into with everyone. Leave 98% of them alone. Okay? Know your battle. Because your priority is essential. I use the word Om Shanti, maybe because in the Brahma Kumari community it's been what diffuses a lot of our buttons. But Dadi Janki is 103 and she's the spiritual mentor of the Brahma Kumaris movement, which is predominantly a female-led spiritual movement. And every time Dadi Janki comes on the stage, wherever she is, she's in Dubai right now. She's 103. She starts every lecture with Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Om means I am, and Shanti means peace. So check what your diffuse mode will be when you are encountering that. Could be that same person. It could be the person at work. It could be an in-law. It could be your child. It could be a stranger on the road. Where was I the other day? I was out somewhere, and apparently this guy wanted to park in this space, and then there was a taxi driver who I could see he just wanted to go. But because that guy had to reverse in the space and the taxi driver was there, he couldn't do it. So the guy came out of the car, yelled a few profane languages, and went back in the car, and that was his battle. He lost his priority, and he still didn't get the space. I actually got it. Because by the time they drove off, I go, well, there's nobody here. I might as well go in. Wasn't that an interesting story? So there's a saying in some of the Hindu scriptures that the two cats are fighting, and the third one in the middle takes the butter and goes. Know your battle, and know what will diffuse you from getting all in a tizzy. know that a lot of times it's that same person that's your trigger. It's your spouse, it's your child, it's your parent, it's your boss, it's your partner, it's your cat, it's your dog. They trigger you. So you have to know yourself and realize at what point am I going to stop losing me in this relationship. So instead of getting into this incredible tsunami of emotions and ownership of everything negative, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Because every time you say Om Shanti, you go right back to what's important. This is not worth the fight. I got bigger things to do. There's so much more for me to do than to waste my energy here. I just can't. This isn't where I'm going. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. And you move on. Understand? And if you can't say Om Shanti quietly, you just yell it at them. Om Shanti, listen. So this to me is a very healing component when it comes to me being me in the midst of challenging personalities. I remembered, and again, I've told this to, some of my close friends in the Brahma Kumari community or even my relatives, and I can honestly say in this lifetime, I've not had a lot of enemies. I've really paid attention to being respectful to people. I've found you give people respect and love and they'll leave you. I mean, there are people who walk away from you. There are situations that emerge, but I don't feel I gave them that much sorrow. And I would say that it wasn't until I reached a particular period in my life that I encountered some karmic energies that it's like I don't feel their love, I don't feel their appreciation, and then I found myself asking, well, do you love them? Do you appreciate them? And that's where I went blank. You like that answer? It's almost as if I was afraid to say no, but I was opened because I really want to say yes. So instead of saying no or yes, I became blank. It's interesting, isn't it? So in order to remove the blank, bless them. And every time you bless the people that you think in your mind are difficult or complex, maybe they're not. Because I've seen difficult people in leadership. I've been around a lot of them. And I used to wonder, but how come they get along with them and I don't? And that used to make me wonder, is it me? And then I would talk to other people and they would tell me like years later, but Jenna, you didn't know that this is how everybody knows he's like this, she's like this. And I went, why didn't anybody tell me? I felt like they were only attacking me. And they went, well, we didn't care. So then you wonder, well, what was about me that I cared so much? So then you have, it's karma. And it's also, I think, the fact that some of us who are very old souls, we care too much. And souls who are newer souls, we're like, it's okay, move on, let's go play a game. It's like newer souls are more like, it's all right, what are you worried about? It's all right. But an older soul carries this sense of deep soul responsibility for the well-being of all people. It's just what's in you. You care too much. And that's why we need the balance of knowledge so that the caring doesn't become a weakness. But you can be empathetic and caring and still have enough logic to say, okay, I get it. This is how you are. This is what's going on. Let me move on. Let me redirect my energy where it needs to go. When it's karma, you find that you're consistently not happy with that energy. It's an obstacle. There's a lot of sorrow. There's a lot of challenges. And so how I look at it is, let's say I have karma with you and it's been not so good. So I'm aware that we've got some karma, right? So I'm like, nothing I do pleases her. So I need to use my energy anyway, and I can't live my whole life to please this one person. I need to feel what my call is from God. And I need to let God's energy move me and not rely on this human being to be my charger or my mover. Do you understand? However, I leave it open to saying, one day, I know there's love here between us. I just can't work out what this is all about. But one day, I know we'll all be good. And I leave those relationships. Even though I can go back to that relationship 5 years later and it's the same energy. I go back 10 years later and they're the same. But what might not be the same is the way I feel towards them. If 5-10 years later it's too late? You know what? On the soul level, it's never too late. But once the soul is in the body and I'm clocking those years, it could be. But it's only too late if I felt that the person left and I wasn't able to let them know that they mattered. So even if that happens, I would still send them my good wishes through thought. I told you about this amazing man I met a few months ago in Florida last year, and Max is dying of terminal cancer. And Max is the sweetest, nicest man you'll ever meet. And Max reminded me to live every moment of my life as if it was my last. And there was a woman who was dying of another illness, and she had somebody who would come to take care of her in her home. And apparently she thought that this woman had stolen her diamond ring that had a lot of deep sentimental attachment. And she got extremely angry with this woman. Now she's dying. And she got so angry, wondering, how could she do this? Look at me, I'm helpless. And on top of that, she's in my house and she steals my ring. And the question to the lady was, well, when you die, you're going to take the ring with you. It's not the point. My great-grandmother passed that ring down to us, and it's my ring and it has sentimental attachment. As she got closer to dying, to basically the soul slipping out of the body, as she got closer to no longer being able to be a charioteer for that chariot, light started to fill up her whole physical being, and her whole aura started to amplify with beautiful light. And would you believe, she started to give away everything, because the only thing that mattered to her in those final moments was love. You know, at the end of the end of that story, they found that ring. They found back that ring. So, wish folks well, and the reason why, it will protect your karma. When I was in my 20s and I was being treated really bad about a superior, and I just made sure that my mind would not have a waste thought about that person, because I knew that was my protection. Because if they're having negative or waste thoughts about me and I start to entertain that, if they're stronger in their waste thought department than I am, they're going to win. But I had to keep having good wishes. And I'm glad that I did. So get into the practice of wishing folks well who you think are challenging. It will protect your karmic field. I think one of the reasons why we struggle with accepting some of these steps or techniques is that if we practice it once, we want to see the result right after. And what we forget is that we've been having maybe a waste or negative thought 4 or 5 years about the person. Now, all of a sudden, I want a positive thought about them after this program, and tomorrow they're supposed to be loving me fully. It's not going to happen. So we're going to need to keep having these well wishes, and this is what I suggest that you do. Whenever the person connects with you, whether it's through text, email, a phone call, through a social gathering, or whenever the image, the name, the energy of the person emerges in your consciousness, exactly at that time, I bless you. I wish you well. Just release it.
What if that person is dead?
If they come up, it's the same, because their bodies are dead, but their souls are, the soul is still eternal. So that means, and that I find them to be a lot more susceptible. You know, when our sweet daddy Prakash Mani, who was the spiritual mentor of the Brahma Kumaris, she passed away on August 25th, 2007. And I remembered everybody was getting a ticket to go to India for her cremation. And I sat in the living room and I was thinking of her. And in the purest, softest voice came, I've not gone anywhere. I'm still here. You don't really have to come. And I remembered that moment. And then a few days after with the cremation, I'm making some tea, and I could feel her love and her presence next to me. And it's as if she was just sending the purest wishes on my head, like she was blessing me. And I was just like, yes, I will continue to do the things that you have been doing. So at a thought level, folks can really understand even your good wishes much more quicker than if they're even in a body. Okay? Good question. So remember, to be a well-wisher will protect your karma. And I want you to practice these life-saving S's. You know, like a snake, the snake goes... So I want you to practice your S's. The first S, see not their weaknesses. Just imagine when that ignorant, arrogant, angry, selfish, conniving, manipulative, deceitful person shows up and says hello and asks you a question, see not their weakness. Because you see, this is where your inner strength starts to grow. You got it now? Remember what inner power is? There are no more karmic blockages. You're flowing. See not their weaknesses. They can be that. I'm aware of it. But don't see it where you can feel it. You see, that's where inner power starts to get developed. Is that you're aware, but you're not going to you're not going to feel it. And that's when you're realizing you're getting stronger here. I really am getting stronger. I'm not feeling the suffering as I used to. So see not their weaknesses, but also speak. Is that the second one? Speak not about their weaknesses to others. The only reason why you will start to speak about the weaknesses of another person is because you have been affected by them in the first place. So instead of seeing them at a soul conscious level, you allow what they were or how you were with them to come into your heart, so you feel it, and because you feel it, you can't help but start to speak about them. And when you speak about them, you start to give it growth. It germinates, which is why I've often been very curious about people who are mystical or who understand energy when they speak a negative or a waste thought about someone. I was overhearing a conversation. There was a big meeting that took place, and the person who was on the stage was sharing something about one of the people in the organization. And they shared something that was to basically put down the person in the organization. And everybody in the room knew who they were talking about, because she was speaking it. And as she spoke it, she was polluting the minds of hundreds of people, if not thousands. But the beautiful thing was that same evening, there was a live telecast. And sure enough, from that live telecast, somebody spoke a praise of the person. And so everybody in the world and in that setting heard the praise of that person. So the praise and the pure feelings deleted that person's negative thoughts about the person. Don't you find that very powerful to think about? This is why you don't want to speak about the weaknesses of others to other people. Be very mindful, okay? Right? You can do it. We can do it. I find that you put a bead in your mouth. You can start, but you catch yourself and then you stop. Because the minute you start talking about them, you'll feel your heart starting to close up. And then that means you're hurting yourself, because you're not talking something good about them. Stop making up the stories in your head about how you want them to be. That expectation that we have about people, how we wish they were something else. Oh, he's so difficult. She's so hard to understand. How much more do you have to deal with this? How much more do I have to take? So even within that simple little quote, you're thinking either I'm better or they should be better, rather than that is the way they are. The question is, am I allowing myself to get affected? One of our sisters, she's getting older, and we've been taking care of her with a lot of love. So as a result, sometimes she does things and say things which we don't understand, because we're in a fast-moving ship. But in our Brahma Kumari culture, there's a very, very strong culture here of respecting our elders. It doesn't matter what they do, how they are, or what they put us through. We don't put them aside. We nurture them until their very last day. It doesn't matter. So in the outside world, people are like rolling eyes. Oh. But for us, we're like, but these are the wisdom keepers of the planet. And when you get those moments, to have those moments with them, they're priceless, right? So one day, I was going through a lot, and this is not an excuse, but I lost my priority. How's that? Did you like that? So I lost my priority, and as I was getting into the car, she says to me, you owe me an apology. And I said, not now, because if I give it to you, I won't mean it. And I got in the car. But I'll tell you why that scene was so important. Because that means I was clear, this isn't who I am. Get that? And the second thing is, when I speak, it should mean something. And so the third thing is that sometimes you just need that time to get your energies in check so that it will matter. Because I don't want to repeat this behavior where it becomes normal. Do you understand? So this is how the mindfulness, the study, the paying attention, the being clear in your priority, not seeing the weakness, not talking about the weakness, not making up in your mind how you think they should be. It is what it is. Right? She's clocking me. All right, silence. So when we look at silence, a lot of us consider silence to be an absence of sound, Martin Luther King has shared that the greatest atrocity is for good people to remain silent. That's not the kind of silence I'm talking about. The silence in Raj Yoga meditation is that you've developed a pattern of thinking that is void of negativity and wasteful intention and emotions for the self and towards others. When you can reduce your pattern of having wasteful thoughts, wasteful intentions, negative thoughts, negative intentions about your own self and about people, you will observe your silence presence will increase. That means you will speak with silence, you will laugh in silence, you will dance in silence. So it doesn't mean an absence of action. It means stop thinking that negative or waste thought. Got that? Make sense? So these are your life-saving S's. See not their weakness, speak not their issues to other people. Stop making up stories and be silent. And you use these tools that we've shared tonight when you go home or when you're dealing with anything. And if the person who has left you by death or by divorce or by misunderstanding, trust that your pure wishes for them will make a difference. Thank you. Thank you. No claps. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Thank you for that. This couldn't have come at the right time for me because I actually encountered something, I think it was yesterday. And I was sharing with Antonia that I'm going to receive this completely different. It's okay. I'm going to observe if how I'm receiving this is with the same energy, with the same vibration. So we have to change what we call the frequency within the being, within the soul, which is the quality of energy you have been nurturing for a long period of time is sending signals to people, is sending signals to situations, environments, and circumstances. So sometimes you look at yourself and you're going, I'm not sending no kinds of signals for that person to pick that up. But at a very, very deep level, maybe the energy is there. Example, you walk in a room and you know those star lilies? You know the beautiful white flowers, and it really makes the whole room smell really strong. Or think about jasmine in the morning or gardenias in the morning, right? So you walk into the room and you can smell the fragrance of the gardenias, right? But it's just all over. But there's just one or two of those blossoms. And you're like, where's this scent coming from? So energetically, we all carry a vibration. And if there are certain challenging situations, let me just observe, is this really me? And let me see if I can just clear that out. One thing I want to suggest, everything that you're going through, it's happening for a reason, yes. But the second and most important thing, please don't take your challenges so personally. But also don't take your victories so personally. Just feel like you're an actor. You've gotten a role to play. You're going to play to your best ability. And you'll get another role. So not to be so attached to the stories and the scenes and the people and how it should have been. It shouldn't have been like that. And it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure my next scene will be a much nicer one. And even if you mess up and you're not always kind or sweet, then you'd be like, that was an interesting role that I just played. Or you go, that was an interesting script for me to enact. Then you just go, my next scene, I want to be the superhero here. You know, so this is how you have to use your mental capacity. Because the soul is you. God's energy is all about you. God's energy wants to work through you. God's energy wants to illuminate to such an extent that you don't even show anymore. And when you can get to that place of inner power, you're going to feel a natural sense of responsibility to think, speak, eat, walk, dress, conduct your life in such a way that you will illuminate every single person that you come in contact with. Wouldn't that be a nice role to play? Huh? Be a nice role, wouldn't it? Yeah. So you've got to start to break your limited belief systems. No one here should sit and say, oh, I can never do that. You should sit here and say, that's something nice to strive for. I'm going to try for that. And see how it goes. Right? Okay, are there any questions or thoughts from anyone? Okay, did you enjoy? Was it okay? Was it helpful? Was it helpful? Okay, because I could sit for another hour or two, but I don't know about you. You might need to eat. So what we're going to do is just close off with some reflection. And Santosh will play one of the meditation tracks that we have. I'm going to invite Sister Gita to come and offer blessings at the end. So we have blessing cards for everyone to receive before they leave today. And please, when you do head out, you know, we have a lot of nice little trinkets at the reception desk, and Antonio definitely will be able to assist you with all of that. And thank you for coming by the museum. And I hope that if it's your first time here, that it won't be your last time. Everybody here does what they do because they just love being in service. And when you come out, it really gives us a sense of joy that, oh my gosh, we're in service. We just love to serve. We love to give back. So we're in this karmic energy of giving more than we take. And so when you come, it helps us to fulfill our wish, and we hope that when you come, you're able to fulfill your wish in taking the time to be here. And I really mean that. Okay. All right, so have a great evening, and now I'll ask Antonia. You going to make announcements?
Okay. Sister Jenna made some of the announcements I had already. So, on your seat, you have a sheet that has all the upcoming workshops for this month. And on Saturday, we have a group, Spirituality in Men, which is a monthly discussion group. So we hope that all the men will come out and join us and support the group. And that's at this location from 1:30 to 3. And on Sunday, the 21st, we have Ways to be a Good Listener. And that will be held at the Tyson's Corner Museum from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. And so you have, one other special mention. Next Wednesday, April 24th, we have a movie screening here. And it's on Living in the Future's Past. And if you go to our website, you'll find more information about that and all the other upcoming events that we're having as well. Okay, in the back near the reception area, we have the 50% off book sale. So please stop by and check it out on your way out. And we also have some inspirational stones on the reception counter as well, which are really nice, very lovely ones. And we have a special here on 2 of Sister Jenna's meditation CDs, Off the Grid into the Heart and Inclusion Revolution. You can get both of those for only $10.99, and that's available at the reception desk as well. And I think that's about it. Sister Gita will be coming up to give out blessing cards after the meditation. And, and all the workshops and classes that we offer here are free of charge, but we do appreciate any contributions that you can make so that we can continue to offer programs like this for the community. And we have donation envelopes on your seat if you'd like to do so. And thank you very much again, and now we'll have a meditation. Thank you.
Breathing with a deep sense of relief, you walk towards a door that has an unusual lock. It's an old, ornate iron doorknob. As you enter this room, you are met by a suppressed sound. It's a sound of regret and dislike. It's the room that you entered and instantly felt it was the room in which you could not forgive yourself or anyone else. In this room, it was darker than the rest. But across the room, there is a chair. It is by a window with the gentle glow of a gentle light, calling you over to sit and see, and to begin to answer your own why. Why not forgive? Why not love? Why not release? Why do I keep trying to control? Breathing a little heavier, you find yourself feeling heavy, unclear, unhappy, removed from any innocence that once existed. In this room, you feel unable to forgive, to let go of the past, to trust yourself or your destiny. The discomfort is increasing, but using the power to withdraw and allow yourself to begin to seep in that you are able to accept these feelings, knowing that you placed them there and you can remove them. So next to your chair are a pen and paper. You pick them up and begin writing down all the effects of holding on to these feelings of pain and despair. You can find none. Then you find yourself wanting to turn towards the window, offering you that gentle warm glow coming through the window. You settle, still without thoughts other than, let me see the glow, not the darkness. You start writing your feelings. The feelings you are experiencing as you look at the warm glow through the window, you allow its energy to flow through you. Because in this room, you can't face yourself alone. And you can't do this alone. You need support. You need love. You need the power of acceptance. You allow an entry of holiness to create a crack in the space of your mind, giving you finally a gentle release.